And we're live. We're live. We finally got here in the end, as I was saying a few moments ago. And I'm really pleased to have you on the show. And I thank you for your patience in allowing me to get everything set up and to finally get to a point where we can jump on this podcast and have a chat.
That's brilliant to be here. Obviously, setting up podcast hosting and so on it's just so many options, aren't there? So with anything in life, there's just so many options, and you want to get that stuff right the first time, so you haven't got to rework it. Well done getting this far.
Yeah. Thank you. And you're absolutely right. And I think that, when you're doing something for the first time and you are presented with so many different options, it's tricky knowing, wait, what's the right decision to make here with the very little experience that you do have in what you're doing for the first time. But I think I've been quite lucky in just getting around the right people and being given the right advice and just deciphering between what's right and what's wrong. And also not starting too big either. I think just taking little steps forward and getting it right and testing things as you're going along. But that's a conversation for another day. And we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. And I really want to get into it because I'm mindful of the time that we have together online today. So over to you, Wes. Tell us a bit about yourself and your business for people that don't know who you are and hearing about you for the first time. Who is Wes in your own words, and what do you do with yourself and your business?
Yeah, it's always an interesting question, isn't it? Because all of us are more than one thing. So I think it's a Martin Short quote that he says, "No one is any one thing," which I love. But on a podcasting platform, usually I'm speaking about business. So I'll start with that. So I run a digital agency. So we do websites and online marketing for trades and construction businesses for the most part. That's our niche. We've got legacy clients from all other industries as well, but over the course of time, we've become more and more niched. So that's me from a business standpoint. Other than that, I'm a father, and my son actually turned 20 today, which is cool. So he's no longer a teenager, which is exciting. And a whole bunch of people made videos for him to celebrate him, and his girlfriend compiled them all together. So it was wonderful just to watch them through and to see people speak of him from their perspectives. And there was so much similar sorts of thoughts about him. So I'm a proud dad and a partner to my girlfriend as well. And that's how life is at the moment.
Fantastic. So we're in February. Capricorn, is that a Capricorn or an Aquarius?
I don't really know. I don't know.
Yeah,
something like that. But I can tell you his character. It's really, and this might lead to you understanding what his star sign might be. So he's really a caring, nurturing, creative kind of person. So I don't know if that lends itself to any of those things. He's really thoughtful. Yeah.
And they're good characteristics to have, regardless of what star sign you are.
I think so.
And you have. So tell us a bit about how long have you been? Is it it's 360?
Uplift
is the name of your
Uplift
360?
Yeah.
How long have you been running that?
Yeah.
That business for?
Yeah, over 20 years now. I've worked for myself much longer than I worked for anyone else, which was completely naive. I didn't really have much experience when I started. I think there was just an opportunity that bobbed up. Someone else had tried to start their own business and they just wanted to go back and get a regular job, and they had a couple of clients. And I said, "What are you going to do with these clients when you close down?" And he said, "You can have them." So that was the start of my own business, very small. And I had a skill set. I knew how to design websites and so on, but I didn't know any of the other stuff when it comes to business. So, learning the hard way and figuring it out and evolving it feels like it's flown by in a lot of ways over 20 years. But you see where you've come from so far, and it's a rewarding path to take to be an entrepreneur and start your own business and all the challenges and so on. So the ups and downs and the roller coaster ride, but in my view, it just amplifies life to a higher level. So all the things you experience in life, the ups and downs and exciting and terrifying times, it's just amplified, it feels, which I love.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it amplifies life, but it also amplifies you and your character. There's nowhere to really hide, is there? It demands so much of you. I often say, if you want to be an entrepreneur, be prepared to be on a self-development journey that's on crack. Like it just never ends. And you realize that the business requires what the market requires from it, but the world of
Yeah.
business requires a part of you. It's continuously demanding of you to grow, to evolve, to develop, and it never ends. That journey is, the minute you crack one level, I feel like there's another one that appears, and depending on how and where you want to take the business and how big you want to grow it, of course. But I feel like that self-development journey where it's constantly just demanding of you to expand and to grow and to
Yeah.
evolve, it just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Especially the world that we're living in now. Like, again, there's another
Yeah.
pivot. Now what are you going to do with the business model that you have? It's like now you've got that as a challenge. Like it's just constant twists and turns.
Yeah.
How have you experienced being in your space and having to now work with the likes of AI? How has that impacted and affected the way you do business?
About 3 or 4 years ago, I got a business valuation done and it came in a lot lower than I'd anticipated it would. All the metrics that you usually measure to give a valuation were good and rock solid, and the valuer explained all that, but he said AI was a massive threat to my entire industry, and therefore people don't buy uncertainty. Not certainly not to that level of uncertainty. There's
Mm,
always a level of it uncertainty when buying a business because things can change and so on. But they want something that's pretty rock solid. And at such a disruption as AI was, it was nothing of my fault. It was just the nature of the timing. He
yeah.
said it had the potential to wipe out my whole industry. So that was great for me. You mentioned that being in business, there's just all these opportunities to grow and for growth, challenges and overcoming. And that's why I love it. And so it was a real wake up call for me to think about, okay, what do I adjust in business and how do I ready myself for the changes that are hitting us now, but also to come? And I think that's how all of us need to think about our lives and our career paths right now. What does, even if you're an employee, what does that pathway of employment look like in the
Mm,
future? Does it change? Are your needs, are your skill sets going to need to
mhm,
change? It's hard to
mhm.
predict to the fullest extent because we just don't know, but there's some signals and markers that we typically can figure out. And if we figure those things out before the crowd, we can be
Mhm.
positioned and ready for the changes. So it's great in a lot of ways. And it's also, there's a lot of things I don't like about AI, but you've just got to work with the world we live in right now. Yeah. How have
What
you
are your
found it?
Look, I think I love AI and I can see how, I mean, for me personally, in my business with what I do, AI has benefited me exceptionally well. It's cut down cost. It's sped up the process. It's made things more efficient and more streamlined, and it's given me back more control over
Yeah.
certain projects. So what do I mean by that exactly? I'll give you one example because it's a piece of AI that I'm currently learning and trying to perfect and using. And that's creating ads, create like creatives. And in
Yeah.
the past, I would have to give that work to a graphic designer, and that graphic designer would have to create multiple variations, and each variation would cost you like $80. And there was like so much back and forth just to get that one piece of ad creative. And you would need several of those to
Yeah.
test in a Facebook campaign to promote your product. And then that product might flop and it might not make you any money, yet you've just spent couple of hundred, sometimes even under a grand, and got no return from it, and wasted time in going back and forth and making sure that the other person understands your brief. It really slowed down the business and it made things so much more expensive to the point where you couldn't test it in the way that it needed to be tested to give you the return that you're looking for. Now with AI, you pay $170 for the year and you can have unlimited testing, full control. You're telling it, I think it's the secret is in the prompt. You have to get very detailed with what and how you're speaking. It's a language model, right? And that has just made a huge difference in what we can do and how we can position ourselves and how often we can test things and play around with things. But that's because of the business that I run. Now, had I have been a graphic designer, maybe my take on that wouldn't have been as positive. But at the same time, I also think that as good as AI is, and it is, I mean, it's amazing, it still needs someone to run it, right? So it's
Yeah.
not at a point where you just pay for it and then it runs itself. You still need someone that's going to be able to run that AI and manage that AI and speak to it in a way where it's going to give you the return that you're looking for with what you're putting into it. So
Right.
I don't think we're at that point yet where AI is replacing jobs or industries, you
Yeah.
know?
100%.
Um,
I agree with that completely.
mm,
And it's such for the creative mind like you are, it's such an advantage because the things where you needed to hire people to do a bunch of things and testing and measuring and figuring out what works, it's an expensive process, but
yeah,
that's alleviated. The challenge with it though, of course, is everyone else has got the same tools you do. So it just raises the competition and raises the stakes.
yeah,
You fall behind if you don't use the tools,
yeah,
but you just everyone else is as well. So you've got to find new ways to cut through and make a difference in the world, which
absolutely. Yeah,
it's great in a whole lot of ways.
yeah,
And for those that are not really growth minded, we spoke a lot about that.
yeah,
Maybe they're the ones that their career paths will be at jeopardy just because they don't stay up with the new opportunities. Any change is an opportunity for somebody.
yeah. And there's going to be so much of that, I feel like, anyway, just with the research that I'm doing online, like social media has completely changed as well. It's no more social media, it's now niche media,
Yes, that's good.
it's interest media. The
Yeah,
AI is coming through, the platforms are changing, the algorithm has changed.
yeah.
Evolve or dissolve, which one's it going to
Yeah.
be?
Yeah, I've gone through different phases of a love and hate for social
Yeah.
media, and it was just before COVID actually where I really wanted to dial it back and go on a really low sort of social media low diet, so to speak. But then, yeah, COVID hit, so it was the only way to stay connected with the world. So that failed quickly, and I was back on it. But these days, it's just about getting these things in the right measure and the right place.
Mhm.
Whilst as a
Yep.
business, we're posting a lot. That's not
Mhm.
me doing it, and it's not me responding to comments. I might bump into it from time to time, but just putting it in its right place and letting people who know this stuff better than I do to do it as well. Yeah, it's about all these things. So the technology can enhance us and it can destroy us as well. It's kind of like
Absolutely.
a drug. It's people are tempted by these things because they enhance what you're up to. But if you abuse these things, then maybe that's not as helpful as they could have been.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I often say to my friends, I don't have an addictive personality, but the iPhone, like technology, social media is the one thing that gets me every time. I think if I didn't have a business, maybe I'd be able to manage it a little better. But when you rely on it to grow your business,
Yeah.
research what's happening out there in the market and just be up to date with the trends, it's so hard not to get sucked into that social
Yeah.
media void. But it's
Yeah.
good that you've got a handle on it and that you've got others that are managing it and you're mindful of like how much time you're spending on it, when to be on it, when to switch it
Yeah.
off and put it aside, and when to give it to others to manage.
Yeah.
That's definitely my goal, I think, in the future. But
Yeah.
for now, it's been a bit of a struggle. Can I ask you a question? Alignment with their current business and the way that they're managing operations in general, what would you say are some practical tips that they can use to shift the way they're doing things and move closer to the kind of work that they want to do and the kind of clients that genuinely feel right for them with the current world that we're living in with AI
Yeah.
and talking
Well, I
about?
think it's really important, isn't it, to really be specific in who you want to serve. And you mentioned the niching of content even. So if you want to reach people, you really need to be specific in who you want to reach and the types of people and where they're spending their time and the message that's appropriate for them. So it's all about understanding yourself. It really is like a personal development exercise. If you find in your business, there will be ups and downs. We've mentioned that, that's for
Mhm.
sure. But the only thing that keeps you on the path for the long term is the vision for that, what you're trying to achieve for the long term. If you're serving clients, let's say you're some form of business to business kind of operation and you're serving clients and they're not really getting you excited by what you're doing, then it's really
Mhm.
difficult to do the hard yards and to stick it out when things are not. When you're serving someone specific, you get to understand them really clearly and you understand what their needs are. And the only way to get rich, if you want to put it that way, is to serve people to a higher level. So you're producing massive value. So the more value you can produce in the world, the more income by rights you should be able to attract. And certainly that's true if you work for yourself. Now it's sometimes doesn't play out like that if you're an employee. Say some of the caring or career paths, they possibly are underpaid. I don't know what they get paid, but I certainly hear all the time, maybe nurses or teachers and so on don't get paid to the value in which they're producing in the world. So that's a different thing. But when you work for yourself, you're producing value for somebody and you should be rewarded in the same measure of the value in which you're creating. It's so much easier to create value when you understand the end person you're trying to support and help and serve. And so everyone benefits that way. So it's a happy life.
How did you go about finding your first handful of high value clients? Because I feel like that's the hardest part, is like you're putting out content. In the beginning, you need volume of content to finally start getting one, traffic, and two, high converting traffic. Is that the way one is meant to start, or are there smart? I understand there's paid advertising, there's organic content. Are they the main sort of two lead generating systems that you would use in today's market? Or given AI is out, do you think that there are smarter, faster, better ways that you can grow a business in a shorter period of time?
Whatever it is, once you're known as the expert in the field in which you work, so if you're in a niche, it's ideal because all of a sudden you're perceived to be the best in that category. Now, so that does mean that potentially you feel like you're cutting off so many more other opportunities when you niche. But realistically, you're just making the niche you serve to a greater level. And there's different ways of thinking about it. Sometimes if you're a local business, let's say, and you're in a small town, if you're a plumber, then yes, you're going to serve everybody who needs whatever kind of plumbing there is because you only can serve the region in which you are. But if you're in a large city and you're still a plumber, maybe you can afford to niche into a key area of plumbing that you enjoy and that's profitable and that you can get it done fast and better than the competitors. And the plumbing emergency fixing guy, I forgot his name, but that's all he does, the emergency jobs. And so a lot of people don't want to do that kind of work because it might be getting you up late at night and all that kind of stuff. But he finds it super profitable and it works with his lifestyle. I've just forgotten the name of the company. But for others, that's something that they really don't want to do. But that means it's an opportunity for someone who's prepared to do that and specialize in that. So there's always these opportunities. One person's category of business that they really don't like is someone else's gold mine. So it's just a matter of figuring out what works for you. And it's not linear either. So you start out on the path, you start in business, and certainly this is for me, and you serve anyone and everybody because you need the income. And over the course of time, you start to evolve. And it is really that growth thing. So you figure out who's the happiest clients, and the happiest clients tend to make you happiest as well. And you attract more of them. They're referring work to you. It evolves organically that way. Yeah, if the market chooses you as opposed to you picking the market in some ways, that's probably a good thing. It comes to you. It's like the Wu Wei. Are you familiar with that kind of Dao De Ching? The philosophy of Chinese kind of.
Yeah, I've actually heard. What was his name? He was a spiritual teacher. He was based out in Dwayne Dwyer.
Oh yes.
I think I've heard him speak about how do you say it again? The Chinese.
The
Tao Te Ching.
Tao Te Ching, yeah.
Yes,
Taoism.
Tao Te Ching,
Yeah.
yes. I've heard him speak about it.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in it, but I find it helps me. I listen to so many different things to help me improve and guide me.
Yeah.
But for listening to that more recently, it's Wu Wei's doing by not doing. So it's a concept of allowing things to happen naturally and organically. And because I'm naturally a driven person, listening to that kind of material helps to balance me into something else, because sometimes striving and pushing is less productive than just allowing things to happen and unfold. That's counterintuitive for me. That's not naturally how I am. So it's really helpful for me to bring that kind of philosophy into my life. But other people might be different. They might be on the other side of the spectrum and be naturally a little bit lazy or something. And then so they might need something
to push
else that
them. Yeah.
inspires and moves them
Yeah.
forward. But I think there is something in the world to think about the alternative perspectives of what
Hmm.
naturally comes to you. The yin and the yang, I suppose, is another way of looking at it. The opposites are both helpful.
Yeah. It's almost surrendering, isn't it? Just surrender,
Yeah.
trust the process, and just be like the river, be like the water, just go with the
Yeah.
flow. And then you're creating less resistance and friction. And that's just opening you up to receive more. And
Yeah.
oftentimes you get to where you're going either more, less stressed and more enjoying, finding more enjoyment in the process. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, the path is what the path is, and you're going to get to where you're going to get to, and what your destiny holds, essentially, for those that believe in destiny. It's just up
Yeah.
to you how you get there. So surrender, trust the process. Don't try to push things that are not meant to be. That's just creating more blockages and resistance and friction in the process of getting there. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's 100% true, and it sounds a little bit woo. Maybe
I was
I am.
about to say, it's one of those things in business that you almost can't talk about, but it's energy and it's everywhere and it is what it is. But yet it is a bit
Yeah,
woo, isn't it? If you're talking
yeah,
about it in the corporate world, in the business world, some people don't really respond to it that well.
yeah. It tend again, I'm no expert in any of this stuff, but I like to listen to viewpoints. The law of attraction was a massive thing for a while there, but I certainly
Yeah.
do believe you tend to attract those things that you're focused on or you believe to be true. There's almost a certainty in you about something. So what that means is you don't charge enough for the your time you put in,
Yes.
and you don't present in a way that's confident. And so when there's a lack of confidence, people are concerned, what is there something
Mhm.
that we shouldn't be confident about?
Yeah.
So these self-doubts can be really damaging, especially when you're young and trying to figure out life and business and all this stuff. But certainly for me, learning through those things and placing a higher value on myself, and then without even necessarily deliberately changing anything in business, coming from a different perspective, things just improve because that's your expectation in life. It's funny, and I know that all sounds weird, but it's been my experience that
How
you
long?
get what you believe you will get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long do you think it took you? I mean, you've been in business, you mentioned 20 years. Is that right? At
Yeah,
what,
just over 20. Yeah. Yeah.
at what point in that 20 years do you feel like you started to back yourself more and have more confidence in what you were asking for with clients and increasing your value with your services?
Yeah, there was no definitive one point in time. I suppose it just evolved over the course of time. Some of the
Yeah.
better things that I did was going to networking groups where you need to stand up and speak to a room full of people. And so certainly just starting out in business, my perception was all these people are fantastic in business, they're business leaders, they know what they're doing, and there's little old me trying
Yeah.
to figure it out. The people you hang around with, you become like. So to be in a room full of business people who knew had been around for a while and they presented really well, you just pick up how to
Mm,
do things. And from them, but you also realize they're also humans and they're also flawed, and everybody knows everyone makes mistakes as well. So
yeah.
not to be so worried if you stand up and say something and don't get it quite right. Nobody's really that bothered by it. And
Yeah.
you've got next week to go again and try again. And yeah, not to
So
be too
true.
self-conscious about it all.
Yeah. What is it? Oh my goodness, I've just had a mental blank. Imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
imposter. And I feel like when you are really authentic and you're just, you know what, guys, I'm really nervous. I stuffed that up. Gee, gone,
yeah,
whatever it is, and you're just like showing up and you're just being comfortable in your own skin. It puts others at ease around you as well. And it all just gets them to open up and just connect with you, or even just say, you know what, dude, it's all good. It's fine. And I find that even in like my corporate career, when you are trying to be too perfect and polished, it creates, it's almost, it creates the opposite effect to the one that you're looking for, if that makes sense.
yeah. I 100%
Yeah.
agree. There's that relatability of our human
Yes.
flaws. So we relate so much more if we see someone who's authentic and genuine.
Yeah.
and they're just not trying to pretend to be something else. They just are who
Yeah.
they are. And I think that's just a sign of maturity as well. Certainly for me, like I feel like I'm a bit older now, a bit wiser. I've done a few
Yeah.
things now, so it comes that way.
Nothing can substitute experience, right?
Yeah,
Time on the planet, life experience, the only way that we really learn and grow and gain
yeah,
our confidence and all the rest. So on a more personal level, what do you on that note, what would you say what was the inner work that you had to do to move from breaking point into a place where you felt more freedom, alignment and calmness
yeah.
within your business?
Yeah, so that was like speaking of those things early on in career and working in the business, but more recently going through divorce and separation, like your business and your life is so intertwined being in business. It was a massive challenge, but it was also a time to figure myself out a little bit as well. So I was still functioning really well. I was doing business meetings and closing business and doing all that stuff. I had my life was almost compartmentalized. So the my personal life falling to pieces and business flourishing. And I was able to compartmentalize. But I soon realized, hey, that can just be a mask. I can just mask things super easy and be productive and provide value to the world and all that stuff. But it was no long term way to live life forever. Went to see a psychologist, and I was really fortunate in that I got a psychologist who was really progressive and spoken a bit about woo type things. So she got me into breath work
Oh,
and
yes.
some other ways of looking at the world and so on. It was super productive and helpful. I only did the 6 sessions in Australia. You probably got a global audience, but at that time, I'm not sure if it's still the case, but they were subsidizing 6 sessions and I just did those six. And so got so many foundational things sorted out in those 6 sessions and was able to build upon that. So sometimes when you don't know what you don't know, you can't see your own blind spots. To have someone like her who's an expert in the field to help me see those blind spots was really great.
That's amazing. Do you want to tell us a bit more about the breath work and what that entails? I'm really fascinated now. There's so much hype around just health and wellness and
Yeah.
meditation and the benefits.
Yeah. She gave me a few little exercises to do myself, which different ones, and even sent me like the YouTube link so I could do some of them. But the clinic also mentioned this course, like not a course, but a dedicated session, which I think it was might have been 3 or 4 hours of breathwork with this expert. And it was
Mhm.
wonderful. There was a couple of guys there, but one was playing didgeridoo while
Oh,
we
wow.
did these breathing exercises. That resonant sound. I've also done the sound baths and all that kind of stuff, and it feels as though I don't know how much of it is just like a spiritual thing or if there's some sort of science behind it. It feels as though it resonates through your body, and so the didgeridoo was a similar kind of feel. But the
Mhm.
breathing, it's almost hallucinogenic. There's
Mhm.
certainly been studies around that. So you see, if for those that have ever experimented with hallucinogens and so on. It's apparently a little bit like
Psychedelics?
that. Yeah. Yeah, I got a whole heap of revelations, if that's what the way you want to say it, or insights through that big session. And yeah, it was,
There's definitely a lot of case studies that have been done on sound healing. I've had experiences myself in the past where when you listen to different hertz music and then the
yeah,
type of sleep that you have after you've listened to it because of the way that it's stimulating and activating parts of your brain. And I've had some very wacky dreams after just listening to that.
yeah,
I haven't really gone too deep into all the different types of sounds, but I do know from the very surface level research that I've done that there's all sorts of influences on the body based on the different
yeah,
frequency and sound that you're listening to and what
yeah.
it can do.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's definitely true. Certainly the didgeridoo, we've got that advantage being in Australia. People playing the
Yeah.
didgeridoo is a really cool experience. And with the whole different exercises and breath work and so on, and even just breathing properly, probably
Yeah.
from and more a scientific standpoint, probably most of us don't breathe enough, deeply enough. And, just the
Yeah.
simple fact of getting oxygen into your bloodstream and so on. Certainly when
Yeah.
you're anxious, you hold your breath. I know I do that.
Yeah.
Just for even from that, if people are not into the woo-woo type thing, just to think about breathing as a way to scientifically get more oxygen into your bloodstream, it makes practical sense as well as the
Yeah.
spiritual side of things as well.
Do you think it's shifting? Do you think that less and less people are seeing it as woo woo as much as they did in the past? Do you think that there's more acceptance and curiosity around the spirit realm and ways that you can incorporate it into business and ways of just being and living? Or are we still a long way off from that happening,
Yeah,
especially in business and the way that we're showing up and maybe even like managing organizations and teams, and what's your
yeah.
take on?
It's interesting. I don't know because I can only speak to my experience, and you tend to attract those that are similar to you into your
Yeah.
world and life. So those
Yep.
that I hang around with are probably similar to me in a whole lot of ways. I
Yep.
suppose because entrepreneurs are always looking for an edge as well. So always
Mhm.
looking and prepared to take risks and to try different things just to get that extra percent out of life, like
Mm.
just a marginal improvement. So we're prepared to try things, and not everything that you try works, but maybe that's part of why I notice it a bit more.
Yep.
But yeah, it depends on the nature of the people. We work with a lot of trades and construction people, so they're more pragmatic, practical, hands-on, down-to-earth kind of people,
Yep.
which I love to serve. They're probably coming from a different perspective on a lot of these things.
Yep. Yeah, no, I used to work in the construction SaaS space,
Yep.
and being as spiritual and curious and creative as I am, I would have some really interesting conversations with these guys. I love them, the builders and the tradies. They are a very different kind of breed. But when you start talking about spiritual topics, but the minute you would bring it up, I remember this one guy I had on the phone once, and here we are, and we're talking about the software and we're talking about how it was going to just streamline his operations and improve his estimating, his quoting, his project management. And then I guess being in sales in my last role, one sort of thing leads to another. You're starting to build up a report. And then here I am talking to him about this app, this where you can put in all your data and it looks at key data points in your birth chart and it runs really well detailed reports looking at all the different things that can help you just in life, in like your personality, your likes, your dislikes, so on and so forth. And he put down the phone and then we hung up the phone, deal was done, called me back 5 minutes later and he's like, hey, what was the name of that app again? He's like, I really want to download it. That was really
Yeah.
interesting. I feel like it's an area that so many people either don't know enough about, or maybe there is some, I don't know, maybe hesitation around it. But because of just like lack of knowledge, but then when you start getting into it more and you start understanding it more and ways that you can apply it to life and how it can benefit you as a person and your understanding and your clarity is the word that I was looking for, you can't help but be drawn to it and want to go deeper with understanding it, right? Because you can see the
Yeah.
changes that it makes.
I think that sort of spiritual aspect is an aspect of humanity. It's a desire and a craving in us all. It's been there
Yeah,
from generations and generations, probably thousands of years. And so with the AI and the tech
yeah,
revolution, the perfection and busyness and all of that it brings, I feel like there's more of a desire and a hunger for these spiritual more aspects and human connection and
yeah,
these sorts of experiences that AI is never going to give us.
yeah,
So yeah, maybe for those that are entrepreneurial, maybe it's a real opportunity for a career path to even think about some of these things that you might be able to do as a business. I've been doing yoga this past month, which has been really cool as well. And I like to go to places that will stretch and grow me. So I'm not going to the old man's kind of yoga experience. I'm going where all the young, beautiful people are going and they can do all the exercises really well.
oh, nice.
They're trying to stretch quite literally in this instance, but it's been really good to do that. Feel a little bit uncomfortable, of course, because I'm not great at this stuff, but it's the only
Yeah,
way to grow, I think.
absolutely. I've done yoga and Pilates and it's still uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
If you've only just started doing, and because there's so many different as well, and so many different types and forms of
Yeah.
yoga that you can do. So you're always going to be challenged, that's for sure.
Yeah.
In the current world of AI, and everything that we're experiencing, how does your work in SEO get impacted? Like in the past, people would flock to Google and type in using their keywords, find what they're looking for. Whereas now they're all going to AI. Is there a different technique and strategy that's used to optimize a tradie or a builder's website? Are we still using SEO? What does that look like? And how has that changed?
Yeah. So the SEO, we're still definitely doing it, but
Yeah.
all these tools are trying to do the same thing. They're using information. The large language models are using content to
Hmm.
address the needs in which people are looking to have addressed. We're publishing content on behalf of clients that will attract the large language models, but also Google, because they're all trying
Hmm.
to do the same thing, and that's surface the very best information for a very specific need. We're not like searching so much in the old school way of service and location, say Plumber Melbourne, because
Hmm.
we know the tool's smarter than that. We can get really specific and ask full sentences and questions and have a dialogue with the tools. So it's not just one question even. And it presents new challenges because back in the day, you would rank highly, you would get a click, you could track the click and you could track the conversion as a consequence and you could show fancy reports and charts and so on of seeing traffic improve and improving. But these days people are getting the answer on the tool. So they're not necessarily clicking through to your website, and therefore it's not easily trackable. But brands are still showing up. I had a really good experience. A client we'd only just started working for SEO, search engine optimization, search everywhere optimization, and he won a massive contract. And he had a discussion with the guys who hired him, and they said, "We found you on ChatGPT." The director had a conversation with their phone, and then they said, "Who's the very best in Australia who provides this?" And my client showed up. So it's the same strategies, but it's thinking about it less about just cramming keywords in to try and trick the search engines, and more about producing quality content that genuinely addresses the needs in which people are looking to have addressed. So that's where it's at. So it's a different dynamic, but I'm loving it because there's less technical tricks and more about quality and substance of what you produce. And so
Hmm.
it's more authentic now because they're so sophisticated at understanding the
Wow.
nuance and the context of what's being said. So yeah, get published far and wide as best you can, and in a positive light is the goal. But if you get
Nice.
a mention in media, for example, big media, then in a positive light, that's going to be
Mhm.
powerful, even if without a backlink.
Fantastic. All right. That's really interesting to know, even for my own website, because I have my Shopify store and I'm
Yep.
doing a lot of work on the site, but I'm not, other than the podcast and just things that I'm doing naturally and organically, if I'm doing anything or if I'm being mentioned in any other platform and publication, which currently not so much, but hopefully that will change in the future. But at one point, I was thinking maybe I'm not doing enough work offsite as I am on site. Like on site, I'm always updating it with products and titles and key and just content. But is that enough? And from what you're saying, it is essentially keep doing it. If you're going to do anything off the site, do it because you're doing it and it's organic and it's needed and it's authentic and it's just complementing what you're doing, or you're being featured or you're working and collaborating with others. Keep it really natural because the algorithm has updated and it's
Yeah.
advanced so much that any black hat or spammy links just don't cut it anymore, essentially.
Yeah, that's it. And so podcasting is powerful simply because it's a collaboration. So you've got a couple of people wanting to share it across them social media platforms and
Yeah.
everywhere else. And so the collaborative way of producing content is the best way in my view. And
Yeah.
it's getting published in multiple platforms as well. So your name and your business and so on can be mentioned in all those places. So it's a good way to syndicate message out far and wide as far as you possibly can.
Fantastic. All right. And on that note, we're done.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for coming on. You have been my first guest since I've been back doing the podcast again with my new setup. So
Yeah.
thank you for your patience in many ways. It's been great to have you on here, and hopefully we can catch up again on another podcast once I'm a couple of episodes.
Yeah, I'd love to be back on the show when you're ready for me.